Hello, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the first ever edition of the Schmidt Show. I'm your host and creator, Ethan Schmidt, and this will be a place where we will talk about sports, culture, and everything in between without any limitations. Man, I need to take a minute because this is a dream come true. This show is something I have envisioned for a long time, and I am so happy to finally get the show on the road and thankful to have you here with me. With this being, I guess you could call it the pilot episode of the Schmidt Show, I just want to share a little bit about myself and my story and the vision I have for this show. I've had a passion for sports probably since before I could walk. I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a diehard Nashville Predators fan of the NHL and also a Tennessee Titans fan. I grew up going to both franchises' games every season. Growing up, I played multiple sports: football, basketball, hockey, baseball, soccer, even tennis, anything, you name it. I love to play sports. It's always been my getaway from the world and the real problems it feels like we have to deal with on a regular basis, and now even more so. My passion for sports eventually led me to Arizona State University, a part of the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, where I decided I wanted to be a sports play-by-play broadcaster, and found out about Arizona State actually through Al Michaels in his biography, or autobiography you should say, autobiography, where he talked about going to ASU. He's a Sun Devil alum, and that led me here to Phoenix, Arizona, where I have lived ever since for going on nearly 6 years now. Phoenix is an incredible place to be. You have the Suns, who are red hot right now, and the Cardinals, the Diamondbacks, the Coyotes, and all of the university athletics around the valley, and even Arizona high school sports are prominent. And I currently am doing live play-by-play for Arizona high school sports around the valley. I did football in the fall, and then basketball in the winter, and now it's spring season. Baseball's here, softball's here. So that is a little bit about myself, and as this show goes along, as we make it better, make improvements every week, you'll learn a little bit more about me, I'm sure. With all of that being said, we got a show to do, we got sports to talk about, and what better way to begin with than March Madness, baby. The Sweet 16 getting underway Thursday night, 4 games, and then the other 4 games on Friday, and then we eventually get to the Elite 8. But I want to start off with my picks, and if you have been following me on Twitter, I have been providing NBA picks, sometimes some college basketball picks here down into the postseason stretch of college basketball. Starting off Thursday night in the Sweet 16, we have 4 insane matchups. Gonzaga, number 1 seed, taking on Arkansas. Then number 2 seeded Villanova against the 11th seeded Michigan Wolverines. And then Duke, 2 seed, taking on 3rd seed Texas Tech Red Raiders. That is going to be a phenomenal game. And closing it off is number 1 Arizona, team down south from here, taking on the 5th seeded Houston Cougars. And I think that has the potential to be one of the best games of the tournament. So let's get to the picks, right down to the nitty gritty. I am taking Gonzaga. I recommend doing an alternate spread or taking the money line. Money line is pretty high. Wherever you find it is probably going to be over minus 500 in odds, but if you can get an alternate spread, I do like the Gonzaga Bulldogs, maybe -4, -5. That could be a good deal, but I do think Gonzaga rolls over Arkansas to begin the Sweet 16. And the next game on the slate is Michigan-Villanova. This has a chance to be a great game. Michigan has seemed to rise out of the ashes. They did start the season as a top 10 program and then falling off a little bit, but picking up steam at the right time. And Juwan Howard has the Wolverines in the Sweet 16, but I think I got to ride with Villanova. The spread is 5 points. You know, maybe a little uncomfortable taking Villanova -5, but definitely riding the Nova money line on Thursday night. And now Texas Tech and Duke, just going to be an absolute slugfest. Texas Tech, incredible defense, and Duke, you know, Coach K's last dance, and we'll have to see how it all shapes out for the Blue Devils. But I don't think they're moving on any further, running into the Red Raiders out of Texas Tech. I'm taking the Tech money line. You can run with Duke if you'd like, but I have a great feeling about Texas Tech. I think that they are going to give Duke all that program can handle. Now, the final game of the night with the Arizona Wildcats. Big deal around the valley in Phoenix. You know, Tucson just an hour and a half south, and they've been the talk this season. 33-3 regular season, along with a Pac-12 title. And don't even get me started about Arizona State. That's a whole another story. But absolute pitiful season for the Sun Devils. But the Wildcats are in a spot to potentially win a national championship this year. So they're taking on the Houston Cougars. But with all the talk about the Wildcats, Houston is just an impeccable team this year. I thought that they would be higher than a 5 seed, but at the 5 seed, matching up with the Wildcats on Thursday night, and it is going to be close. I do want to take the Houston money line, but, you know, it would be cool to see Arizona. Yes, I know I'm a Sun Devil alum, but if the Wildcats can keep it going, move on to the Elite Eight, that would be pretty cool. So I think Arizona is going to squeak this one out. Very thin margins. Some of the spreads are not even a point. I've seen 0.5, but I'm going with the Arizona money line. Moving on to the Friday slate of the Sweet 16. It all starts with the Cinderella story, St. Peter's Peacocks, and they are flying high. I know Peacocks can't fly, but the Purdue Boilermakers are going to be a tall order for St. Peter's, so we will see, but I have been riding the Peacocks. Actually took the OT money line against Kentucky. That hit. That was cool. So St. Peter's 12.5 point underdogs. I like them to cover that against Purdue. They've been playing so tough. I mean, obviously, 2 upsets in a row to get to the Sweet 16. How about those Peacocks? Up next, number 4 seeded Providence going up against top seeded Jayhawks. Well, a number 1 seed, not top seeded. But nonetheless, I do like the Jayhawks here to continue what has been an impressive showing in this March Madness NCAA tournament. So we're taking the Jayhawks, and let's look at that spread. Not a big fan of the spread, so Kansas money line is where we're at with that one. And now moving on to the next game, it's 8 seed in North Carolina, the UNC Tar Heels up against the UCLA Bruins, 4 seed. And for some reason, I've had this feeling where I don't like UCLA in this tournament. I don't know if it's just being an ASU alum or what have you, but I'm rooting against the Bruins, and I do like UNC in this matchup actually. And we're riding the Tar Heels money line. on Friday. And last but not least, what should be another fantastic matchup, a battle of lower seeds actually. Number 11, Iowa State, the Cyclones, going up against the 10th seeded Miami Hurricanes. So a battle of the elements, Cyclones, Hurricanes. Should be a fun one, but I'm riding the U, baby. Let's go. Miami, take them against Iowa State, -2.5. That's what I'm riding. You could ride with me. You could fade me. Whatever you want to do. But let's win some money this weekend and watch some amazing college basketball or just basketball in general, because this tournament, anything could happen. We have a 15th seed in the Sweet 16. I'm excited. I want to give a shout out to the women who are also in the Sweet 16 this weekend, and looking ahead, some great matchups taking place in women's March Madness. You have North Carolina and South Carolina going at it, just to name one of the big matchups. And then on Saturday, I'm riding with my Lady Vols. I think that they could possibly pull off the upset against a top-seeded team in Louisville. So go Lady Vols, and I got them covering the spread +7. And good luck to the women in what should be an impressive Sweet 16 and Elite 8 showing for women's college basketball. Now we're completely flipping gears here to NFL free agency, and wow, this offseason has been absolutely wild. I honestly don't even know where to start with you guys. I'm sure all sports fans have been following NFL free agency closely, but the biggest, latest news is Tyreek Hill, the cheetah, going to South Beach, taking his talents, and Miami. Oh my goodness gracious. The Dolphins have an opportunity to be absolutely filthy, and you have Mike McDaniel, brand new coach, offensive genius, and we saw what he was able to do unlocking Deebo Samuel, South Carolina product, and then Tua Tagovailoa has weapons now, and he showed last year that Jalen Waddle, who set the rookie record for receptions, he could be an elite talent. And going into his sophomore season, now getting Tyreek Hill, so he could take the top off the defenses that the Dolphins are going to be up against this season. And then picking up Armstead was a great pickup for the Dolphins, just going all out in free agency. And not even talking about, we're talking about just the AFC East there, with the Dolphins even having a possible chance to be better than the Patriots this season. I don't know. We'll have to see how Mac Jones does in his sophomore season, and if Bill Belichick can keep the magic alive, you could see a postseason without New England in what has become an absolutely stacked AFC gauntlet. The AFC West, absolutely stacked now. Unbelievable talent at the QB positions in that division. And now the Chiefs losing Tyreek Hill, the cheetah. What does that do for Kansas City? I'm sure that the franchise can still be very successful, but just a tough decision there. A massive contract for Patty Mahomes, and wanting to hang on to Travis Kelce, who is arguably a top 10 wide receiver, is not even an official wide receiver, is a tight end, and he's one of the best pass catchers in the NFL. But losing just a world-class talent in Tyreek Hill, who takes the tops off of defenses, as we've seen, 6-time Pro Bowler, plenty of tape on Tyreek Hill. And then the Las Vegas Raiders getting Devontae Adams in a blockbuster trade with the Green Bay Packers, and I think that was a very tough move for the Packers to move on from Davante Adams, but he's with Derek Carr, uh, former college quarterback, wide receiver duo at Fresno State. And I think that this could be a really great fit for Davante Adams. I mean, no doubt that he's going to keep up his production as long as he's healthy. He's healthy. Uh, Arguably the best receiver in the league. You know, you gotta have him in the conversation with D Hop, DeAndre Hopkins, but Davante Adams, top talent, going to the AFC West, and then the Broncos getting Russell Wilson at quarterback. As we all know, that offense has a chance to be elite, especially with their new running back, Javonte Williams, who's going to be in his sophomore season, along with Judy, Sutton, and Patrick, and all those guys. And then last but not least, I feel like a team that is being least mentioned out of the four still has a chance to win the division. The Los Angeles Chargers, with a quarterback talent like Justin Herbert, who has proven that he's become one of the elite pass throwers in the National Football League, along with Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, and that defense has become formidable, picking up J.C. Jackson on a very nice deal for J.C. Coming from New England. The Patriots didn't want to re-sign him. I wasn't sure about that move. Didn't understand why you wouldn't want J.C. Jackson back. But Pats move on from him. Chargers get to eat it up. And then a big blockbuster trade for the Bolts as well, with getting Khalil Mack. I'm excited to see that for the Chargers. And the AFC West, it could be a division where all four teams have a chance to make the playoffs, and the AFC is just absolutely stacked. And I'm just so excited for this upcoming NFL season. I mean, we all thought Tom Brady was done. We thought he wanted to go be with his family and see what that life was like. And not even 6 weeks, he said, "I'm back. I can't let this go." And I mean, Tom Brady, growing up, one of my idols in professional sports. Happy that he's going to continue on, and I mean, he's just going to keep adding to an impressive resume. You know, Tom Brady could have possibly been the NFL MVP last season. They gave it to Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay. And talking about Aaron Rodgers, no Davante Adams, how is he going to look now without his top weapon? And I don't think Green Bay is going to have as successful as a season as the Packers just did, and one where they should have done more. It was a very pitiful loss to the Niners in the postseason. Well, nonetheless, moving on to the teams that I follow most heavily, the Tennessee Titans and the Arizona Cardinals. And we'll start with the Cardinals just because their offseason has been pretty wild, getting a lot of press, especially with Kyler Murray looking for a new deal. You know, the whole post from his agent, Eric Burkhart, and Kyler trying to figure out the next steps in his career. And I mean, I don't blame him. With a talent like him, I don't think he should be playing for $5 million this next season. But the way that whole thing has gone, I don't know, a little suspect. But hopefully, I think the Cardinals will figure it out. And not a lot of action in free agency for the Cardinals, and not really any big signings. Bringing James Conner back, a little bit of an expensive ticket, but you know, the Cardinals do have a good chance this season. I mean, obviously going to be competing with the Rams in the NFC West, and the 49ers, I'm sure, could still be right there, but nobody knows what the Niners are doing at quarterback. And then the Seahawks, I mean, it's tough to say that they're not in rebuild mode, but we'll see. And Bobby Wagner no longer a part of the Seahawks, along with all of the other moves that have taken place in Seattle. So we will see. But the Cardinals do have a good chance to actually succeed this year. A very tough schedule for Arizona, but nonetheless, if DeAndre Hopkins is healthy, Kyler Murray plays the way he is capable of, James Conner has another, uh, top five uh, running back kind of seasons, then the Cardinals could be in great shape. They do lose Chandler Jones to the Las Vegas Raiders, but just got to shore up that defense. And Steve Keim's going to have to try to get some hits here in the upcoming draft. Now moving to my hometown Titans. Tennessee Titans in pretty good shape, pretty much same team. They do let Saffold go off the offensive line. Kind of a tough move there. Had to free up cap. They let Julio Jones go. I'm okay with it. Julio wasn't healthy much last season. I believe he didn't even catch a touchdown pass. And if you had him in fantasy, somebody you probably dropped or traded away. But they do pick up Austin Hooper. I really like that move at wide receiver. Getting Robert Woods. Robert Woods coming off an ACL. Might not return till October, maybe November. So we will see what happens with the Titans. But it truly is Tennessee's division to lose. I mean, the Colts get Matt Ryan. And, they have a solid defense there in Indy. And, of course, Jonathan Taylor, just an absolute stud. And then, who knows what's going to happen with Houston and Jacksonville. And it's really the Titans' divisions to lose at that point. But the Titans, they effed up this past postseason. Should have beat the Bengals, but, that's a whole nother story. Now, winding down our NFL discussion here on the first ever edition of the Schmidt Show, want to talk about quarterback Deshaun Watson. The young phenom has been accused of over 20 possible cases of sexual harassment and or assault, and now a member of the Cleveland Browns traded from the Houston Texans, and it's just honestly kind of disgusting, I must say, on a part of the Browns organization, but it is true that it could have been any one of these teams looking for the bottom line. We want this top elite generational talent at quarterback, but it kind of bothers me that the Browns are able to only have $1 million base salary on his first season, the suspendable season possibly out of all of this, and only fines can come out of the $1 million pool when Watson has been guaranteed $230 million by the Cleveland Browns. And just kind of crazy to think about. And now he's not even out of the woods yet. Still a long road ahead for Deshaun Watson in these accusations. Now, after not being indicted by one Texas county with, I believe it was 9 of the cases that were possibly criminal, he avoided any criminal charges, but now a new grand jury in a different Texas county is evaluating at least one case, I'm pretty sure, and he still could possibly face criminal charges. It's just going to depend, but nonetheless, more than a handful of civil cases that Deshaun Watson has to go through, and it's really starting to look like he must face a suspension from the NFL in this upcoming season. I mean, it'd be hard not to think that he would be. We've seen a lot of cases that just get blown by or forgotten about as far as it pertains to domestic violence, sexual assault, harassment, etc. Problems that we continue to see. It's not just in the NFL, but we are still having to talk about this, and the fact that Deshaun Watson has at least 22 cases out against him, civil or criminal, is pretty jarring, pretty glaring stuff. So we will see, but it is pretty crazy to think that the contract is able to be set up that way where as little amount of money will be lost for Watson, and he's handed a $230 million guarantee. And even Tyreek Hill, who's on the move and now one of the, if not the highest paid wide receiver, highest paid player at his position. Of course, Tyreek Hill faced legal trouble before, and it is pretty crazy. Actually, Sarah Spain, someone who I got to meet and came to Cronkite in my time there at one point, actually had some great words on it. I want to share it with you guys.
The Browns are going to fairly face a lot of criticism for this Watson signing, this contract, and their failure to reach out to his accusers. But it's honestly hard to imagine that many other teams would have behaved differently. There was, after all, as you mentioned, a bidding war for his services, and we've seen this time and time again, the prioritization of talent and the bottom line over everything else. But we can't just shrug our shoulders and accept the status quo. We're going to still await the outcomes of the civil cases. In the meantime, it's necessary to continue having educated conversations about cases of harassment and assault. Not because we presume guilt, but because our culture has conditioned us to blame victims and defend athletes, to believe that pay grabs are common and successful, which they aren't, and that the legal system will ultimately offer us a clean, satisfying answer to any questions of guilt. When the truth is, according to recent estimates by the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, just 0.6% of sexual assault cases result in incarceration. So understanding how inadequately the legal system handles these cases matters. What also matters? Demanding transparency and accountability from any team willing to make a man accused by over 20 women the face of their franchise.
Well, that will just about do it for our NFL discussion here in the first ever edition of the Schmidt Show. Still a lot to come in the NFL offseason. Some big name free agents that have yet to sign: Tyrann Mathieu, Odell Beckham Jr., Stephon Gilmore, just to name a few. And I'm sure we will be talking about it plenty going forward. But now, transitioning back to basketball, this time it's the association. We're talking about the NBA, and if you haven't been following me on Twitter, I have started posting my picks for the NBA betting every day on my Twitter account. Be sure to check it out at the Ethan Schmidt. I give you guys some locks, my best picks, and those locks are the ones I feel most confident in. The latest NBA news, of course, you can see here behind me, Stephen A. Smith, Brian Winters giving their thoughts on it, but the mayor of New York City is set to roll back the vaccine mandates on the private sector in the city, which has not allowed Kyrie Irving to partake in home games with the Brooklyn Nets, a part of some of the earlier struggles in the season for the organization, and eventually shipping off James Harden. But now Kyrie Irving possibly able to be a part of the team 100% moving forward, and that's huge. And actually, in all of the games, most of the games that Kyrie has played this season, he's done very well, and he looks like he's at his peak, and that will be huge for Brooklyn, especially heading into the postseason, when it could have been possible that they wouldn't have Kyrie Irving in home games. And you think a home game in the playoffs is an advantage, but it would almost be a disadvantage for Brooklyn. And of course, this coming with the mayor being pressed, I'm sure, by the MLB organizations in New York City, with the Mets and the Yankees, and the possibility that the Yankees' top player, and Aaron Judge, might not be vaccinated, allegedly. And so definitely the pressure was put on, and it didn't really make sense to begin with the rule. And so that will be happening for New York sports, and definitely huge for Brooklyn moving forward in the NBA. Now, moving on to some more NBA discussion. Absolutely disgusting performance by the 76ers on Wednesday night. Had them covering against the Lakers -9.5. They only win by 5 against a Lakers team without LeBron James, and the starting lineup had 0 minutes ever played together. The starting lineup that LA put out against the 76ers. And this team has sky-high aspirations this season in the Eastern Conference. And you go out and you play like that. Yes, Joel Embiid sort of tweaked his back. Maybe James Harden, not exactly 100%, but I did not like the way they performed. Still won, obviously, but lack of effort on the defensive side of the ball, not much hustle. Maybe they thought that, hey, we can sort of coast this one out, which is what happened, but the Lakers kept it interesting, and the 76ers are not looking that impressive as we inch closer toward the postseason. I'd still like Milwaukee, the Brooklyn Nets, or even the Boston Celtics right now over the Philadelphia 76ers. Of course, Embiid and Harden off to a historic tear, part of their new duo and tandem there in Philly, but have really fell off as of late as far as what I've seen in the last few games for Philly. And that third player still struggling to emerge. Of course, Tyrese Maxey playing very well for Philly. And then Tobias Harris. A lot of people forget about Tobias Harris, but we'll have to see what Philly does. Barely clinging on to the second seed in the East. But the Boston Celtics red hot on the trail of the Bucks and the 76ers. I am just excited for the NBA playoffs. Absolutely going to be electric with the play-in, with everything. The race in the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference is just insane right now. And moving over to the Western Conference, the league leading Phoenix Suns are going absolutely crazy this year. 6-game win streak now for the Suns headed into Thursday night. A tough game at Denver. We will see what happens, but absolutely love the Suns team. Of course, the Phoenix Suns lost one of their main guys in Chris Paul, the point guard, a few weeks ago, but the Suns have not missed a step at all, and they are rolling. And gotta give a shout out to D Book. Wet like on book. Gotta give a shout out to Devin Booker, the fourth fastest player in NBA history to 11,000 points. Shout out to D Book. Hey, keep it wet, my guy. And he is balling. Pretty cool, actually. D Book joining a legendary list of players. The three in front of him that reached 11,000 points faster: LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Kobe Bryant. We know Kobe Bryant's past relationship with Devin Booker and how special that was for both of them. And of course, LeBron and Kevin Durant, future Hall of Famers, easily. LeBron, arguably best player of all time. That's a discussion for a different episode. But the Phoenix Suns have a chance to get back to the NBA Finals in back-to-back seasons after this franchise went a decade without a postseason appearance. Something special brewing right here in the Valley, and it has been fun to be a part of and be up close to witness. It's spring, so you know what that means. Baseball is here, and the MLB finally figuring out its lockout BS, and we will have a full 162 game slate in the MLB. I'm not a huge MLB regular season guy, but this season has a chance to be very exciting. Lots of free agent action, just as we discussed going on with the NFL. So that's really cool to see. And spring training is actually underway right here in the Valley, Sloan Park, just a few miles actually from my house. And going to try to hit a game before the season gets going here in the next week. But just some insane free agent moves already in the MLB. Of course, the top one that I want to talk about being from Nashville. I followed the Atlanta Braves closely growing up, and of course the Braves coming off the huge World Series win, just fantastic moment for the franchise. But now Freddie Freeman moving on from the organization, 12 seasons with the Braves, and I'm so sad to see Freddie go. And it's even worse because he's going to the Los Angeles Dodgers, easily my top disliked team in my sports fandom. And Their lineup, credit to them, is stacked, but it's honestly mind blowing the way the luxury tax works and how these top market teams are just able to stack the lineup. Exhibit A, the Dodgers, but Freddie Freeman moving on, chasing more rings. Surprised they let him go. But the Braves do pick up Matt Olson from the Oakland A's off a haul. 4 top prospects being sent off by Atlanta to Oakland for the first baseman. And Matt Olson signing an 8-year, $168 million contract. And that is a bigger deal than what Freddie Freeman is getting with the Dodgers. So a little bit interesting decision by the Braves. Of course, Matt Olson, 5 years younger than Freddie Freeman. Olson, a 2021 All-Star, coming off a season in which he had 39 home runs and 111 RBIs, batting .271. So not a terrible move by the Braves, I would say. And maybe it was just an age thing, or, Freddie got his ring, so he's moving on. And it be like that sometimes. Talking about some of the other massive free agent moves in the MLB, of course, Carlos Carrera, and a move nobody saw coming, leaving the Houston Astros to go up north to the Minnesota Twins, a 3-year deal with opt-out options for Carlos Carrera. And then Corey Seager going from the Dodgers to the Rangers in a big move there. Of course, Chris Bryant is moving on to the Colorado Rockies. And we talked about Freddie Freeman, and then Max Scherzer signing a 3-year deal with the New York Mets. Then Trevor Story, a big deal, going to Boston on a 6-year mega deal. So the MLB is shaping up to have a very competitive season, at least we hope. And of course, the hometown Diamondbacks, hoping that they can have a successful season after an absolutely abysmal 2021 year by the Arizona Diamondbacks. And we'll look forward to get out to some games as the regular season starts, and hopefully have some more insider coverage on the Diamondbacks as the Schmidt Show chugs along. Keeping us in the realm of baseball, I've been having fun lately calling Arizona high school games in the Valley. Actually just called a game on Tuesday between the Corona del Sol Aztecs and the Desert Ridge Jaguars. That was a fun one. The Aztecs coming out on top 3-2, and got to see ASU commit Cole Carlin pitch for the Aztecs. So lots of talent in this area as far as baseball is concerned. Big shout out to the families, the parents, the coaches who have been showing me some love lately on social media in my coverage for Arizona varsity high school baseball, a part of Prep Spotlight TV, where I'm setting up the live broadcast and calling the game. It's been a lot of fun, and it will continue until May, so I will be sharing some clips here and there and some coverage for Arizona varsity high school baseball and softball. I want to try to implement that a little bit in the Schmidt Show. Coming to an end here in this first ever edition of the Schmidt Show. I want to thank you again for joining me. We will not only be talking about sports as promised, of course. I mentioned that I want to dive into culture. I'm a huge hip-hop rap enthusiast. I love making music videos, taking pictures, directing, doing all sorts of stuff, production, just anything creative, content-wise for music. I'm all about it, and hip-hop and rap is about the only thing that I really listen to. And so we will dive into more discussions as far as music and culture pertains, and just the crossover between sports and culture. So I am very excited to be able to dive into some of those aspects with you all. As promised, wanted to share some content with you guys in the hip-hop rap scene. got to go see Corday live at the Van Buren in downtown Phoenix earlier this month, and he put on quite a show. Here's some clips.
I was at the jack door, see that's the perks you get from being Superdog. This is real life, they don't act in it. All these rap niggas, they be Brad Pitt. Every little thing I do bad, different than my little cousin play. Get my little bro quick, 50 piece, got the whole motherfucking trap hit. I've been stacking up all these assets, to be good, done and no bad business. I keep that drip on me, my nigga, I'm big on me. Can't ever slip on me, I'm on my flip on me like top cool in the motherfucking summer, I rest my case like I'ma live life to the fullest with every single breath I take. Let me tell y'all something real quick. Hey, you assholes get cold every time that you touch my wrist. I'm the greatest nigga you can. Most of all, we all need prayer. Karma coming, nigga, beware. Cause I don't know where I'm going, but I hope I'm on the right path. Life will hit you with a light jab. Mike Tyson. You niggas going out slice. Born all about Mike. New drip, I grab. I just wanna get my life back. There's no complaining on this side, my nigga shit is not tolerated. Cause some niggas off like an operation. Now my team wait.
Well, that will do it for us here on the Schmidt Show. Again, I cannot thank you enough for tuning in. This is a blast. I look forward to making this show better each and every week, making improvements. Please give me your suggestions, anything to be in mind of. I would appreciate that. Of course, you can continue to support me by watching The Schmidt Show and liking it, subscribing to my channel, following me on social media at the Ethan Schmidt. And I'm so happy to start this journey with you all. Again, the creator and your host, Ethan Schmidt, signing off from The Schmidt Show for the first time ever. Wishing everyone a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time.